resulted in a potential loss of a $4 billion business.
That's Sonal Rattan, co-founder and CTO of eXate. The company idea came from crisis.
It came in my corporate career, slapped me across the face about 6 times, and we pulled all of that together to create intelligent infrastructure. But it didn't exist up until now. It has to be stable, it has to be resilient, it has to have all these other things.
There was a tough start.
I've got a chance to do it. We were just sat like, how hard can it be? We had like a really great term sheet. And then a little thing called COVID happened. The organisation pulled that term sheet.
But there's been big major wins since.
And that was our shoestring budget to start with. It was $500,000 at the time. How am I going to deploy this globally and take the world's data and do this for 65 countries? But we did it.
Find out how she did it.
If it was easy, everyone would have done it. So when I was growing up, I had nothing to do with what I'm doing today. I wanted to be a travel agent. I wanted to see the world. Then for a few years, I wanted to be an air stewardess. I had big dreams to travel the world. Not sure how I would be traveling the world if I was a travel agent. I was sending other people around the world, but obviously didn't think that through very well. But absolutely nothing to do with computers. I thought I was pretty savvy at computers. I used to like computer games and all of those types of things. But it wasn't really something that I was going to go into. I thought, I could use Microsoft Word, etc. I thought that was good. Eventually decided to apply to university. Phoned up the university, said, what can I get on? They said, how about computer science? I was like, excellent, let's do that. I can use Word, I can do Excel. I'm very good at that. Had nothing to do with that at all. Obviously, like a big shock to the system while I was there. So I kind of went in quite dumb to start with, to say, just let's do that. But to be fair, it was the best decision I ever made. It was just by chance that I ended up doing what I was doing.
Did it feel like that at the time? When you started studying it, how did you feel like this first few months? Was like, okay, this is great, or?
Well, when I first got there, I was like dumbstruck. Like, what are these people saying? What do these words mean? That is furiously spending time in libraries, etc., trying to understand what I got myself into. For everyone has their own thing. So some of it's really boring. And so if one of the things is that I wanted my children to do computer science, and my eldest is 17 now, did computer science at GCSE level, absolutely hates it now because it's kind of boring as subject goes. But what I really liked, I like the programming aspect of it. And that's where I really thrived at it. I really understood it. It's like getting the nuts and bolts of it. It kind of led me back to some of the things that I did when I was younger with my dad. It was 2 girls that my dad treated as like boys. Getting in there, fixing the old VHS videos and all of those types of things. So it's kind of a bit of, like when putting memory into a computer or actually doing the programming side, how the whole thing comes together and it works. I actually really liked that bit. So I ended up really enjoying that part to learn it. Did find it really difficult because, I think a lot of the people that were there had done GCSE computer science and A-levels in computer science, or whatever that journey looked like for them. I did none of that. And I just went in hardcore, I can do this, I can do anything. And I ended up building an entire career around that.
And when you were looking for jobs afterwards, were you sure that you wanted to be in the developer space? Because at a corporate, because obviously you mentioned that you like playing games when you're younger.
Yeah.
And I feel like many computer science students, sometimes you get into it to start to make games or want to do this. What made you choose the next first job after university?
So I knew I wanted to get into programming. So when I left university, so I did my bachelor's, but I still felt I had a big gaping void because I didn't do it as I was growing up, I guess. So I went on to do a master's and I did it in e-commerce. So I really started to get drawn into it. It was a brand new subject when I was at university at that time. But I was really keen to see how the web was going to transform the way we buy things. So that whole thing was just exciting for me. I really wanted to understand it. So I knew that was the area I wanted to go into. I wanted to go into e-commerce, and that's what really led my career. So I started off, I got into a graduate training scheme and programming was a part of that, understanding what the business was. It was in financial services. So I was the whole thing was just amazing how they're using technology to solve business and financial problems. And it was the beginning of that sort of compare the market type stuff, but it was for independent financial advisors. So you could get quotes from different places and have it in one place. That was revolutionary back then. It was otherwise you'd have to phone up and someone will go phone, a broker would do that for you. You could do this by yourself. So I just found the whole thing amazing and fascinating, and how like technology can do all of these things, and how the internet was allowing these things to talk to each other. So that's sort of where my career sort of went down that path. And I just was like mesmerized by the whole thing.
So you obviously worked at quite a few different companies before starting your own thing. Was there a point earlier on where you thought, one day I want to build my own thing? Or something that just happened over time naturally? Where did that the first seed come into play?
So I've always wanted to do something on my own. It's purely my dad. My dad, again, I was saying, being the Indians that we are, and well, my dad had shops, but his whole thing was build up. Well, my mum and dad, I give my dad credit when my mum was the one that did all the work. I don't know why I do that, but it was, he was the one that took the risk to say, we're going to buy a really rundown shop, get the value of it up, make it good, profitable business, and then sell it. And he did that as a repeated thing. So yeah, I kind of got that business gene from him to say, I really want to do that side of it. But I was doing really well in my corporate career as well. So at that time I was, do I want to, I'm doing well already. I'm getting to places that I never thought I'd even get to. So for me, that to take that leap, I really had to believe in something that I would want to do and really want to solve it. But I wasn't actively looking to solve the problem. It came in my corporate career, slapped me across the face about 6 times. And then I said that I need to buy something to do this. Went out to market, tried to find a solution to do it, couldn't find it. Spoke to so many different lawyers around how do we solve this as a problem. And it was there in front of me. I was like, this will revolutionize and change things if somebody fixed this. So the scientist in me wanted to actually get up and say, okay, fix this. The engineer, I guess, more than a scientist, but in that scenario, was let's get this fixed and done. And spent about 7 years building, which was a pretty hard problem to solve, but we got there. And luckily we had other banks and other organizations that are keen to actually help us solve that problem.
So can you tell us about when you were in, it was a HPC at the time, right?
Uh-huh.
What was that problem that slapped you around the face? As you're a bit.
Yeah, right. The kind of problems that we had were around what we were trying or coining at the time was a global operating model. So that was, I need to deploy software, but be able to use it globally. And that was the kind of thing that I was trying to solve for. So I had a problem which resulted in a potential loss of a $4 billion business, gets people's attention, a lot of pressure on us to actually solve it. So it landed on my, so he's my business partner now. So he was the COO for the markets division at the time, had an issue. Regulators were threatening to shut a business line down. And our job was to fix it with software. So we had software that we'd built. We'd done it for London. It was the geographic boundary that we're looking for was to solve it for the UK. But as soon as the head of market seen it, is it get this out immediately globally. But you can't have any more money. You can't have any additional resources. Just make it happen. Just like magic. That was one of the problems that we had, was that now going to different countries that have different data localization requirements, data sovereignty requirements. So sovereignty is slightly different to data localization. So sovereignty will be that they have to have complete autonomy and have ownership of something. So if the London, wherever the data is, got subpoenaed, they can't give that to other regulators, etc. So that's kind of where the sovereignty part came into it. And then you had data localization, where they're saying it has to be physically on like Indian servers or whatever it might be. And that was the problem that slapped me across the face about 6 times. And I thought, this is nuts. I need to do something to solve a global problem. I need to have software. Once I've got one small team to deal with it, how am I going to deploy this globally and take the world's data and do this for 65 countries? But we did it. I think we had to leave a couple of countries that just couldn't get on board with the different techniques that we were trying to use. But that's essentially what was one of the problems that we had. But as GDPR kicked in, it got even worse. So everyone just thinks of cookie consent and stuff like that when you think of GDPR, but it does come with other things that you need to do as an organization. things started to get harder and harder. More and more friction was coming into play for every single application we're trying to deploy. So we did 2 years in corporate and institutional digital, which is like everything apart from the retail side of the business. And this was a global role. So every single project, so it was a big program of work, multi-billion dollars, but every single project within there was taking about 233 man days trying to just deal with this. So we were having to hire more risk and compliance type people than we were technologists when we were trying to do digital transformation. And that's the thing that we were like, everything's taking longer than it should, everything's harder than it should be, it had a lot of friction in there. How do we actually take that friction back out and automate it? So that's what we were looking to solve.
So as you said there, like you're solving this big problem for such a huge organization, a multi-billion dollar problem. And once you're in that situation where obviously having solved that problem must have, like it's even great, like better for your corporate career, right? You've had all the success and you're leading these massive projects. How did it then feel to then leave that, to then try and start your own thing?
I couldn't solve it. That was the thing. There wasn't software to help me do that. There were individual pockets of things that I could do, but as organizations, again, everything comes with friction. To try and pull all these things together is really quite difficult. I ended up leaving to actually solve the problem. So I started off with, I'll start with it small, but yeah, as entrepreneurs, everyone would say like build an MVP and then off you go. We were not like, no one was going to buy our MVP, you know, that, okay, we solved this for like encryption in different countries. It didn't quite work like that. It had to work in a corporate estate. It needed to have a lot of different things in there. So our MVP was a lot harder to actually create before we could go out to market. We had to pretty much have a full working product before we were able to actually do this. So it did take us quite some time to actually get there because it was a big, hairy problem. If it was easy, everyone would have done it, or the banks would have done it. I would have done it in the bank at the time, but it wasn't. It required a lot of different moving parts to come together to do it. And also, this isn't something that we're able to solve on our own either. So to really do what we're doing, we're working with the likes of Red Hats and IBMs, coming together as a community to try and actually solve this as a problem, to take a lot of that friction out.
And obviously, as you said, you're taking a huge risk in some ways, because having to build this MVP, which is in a small MVP, it's not you can't like vibe code it, right? It's not like you can just make it in a weekend. It's going to take so much work to do that. And having to leave behind this very successful corporate career, what was the decision? Was there anything there where you kind of weighed up in your head, or how did you come to that decision? Because you could have just been like, oh, forget about this problem. I'm just going to keep taking my salary and I can keep my stable, safe spot. What were the factors there as well, beyond just like really wanting to solve the problem? Oh. Did you have to weigh up other factors too?
Yeah, I had a young family at the time. So they're older now, but at the time when I actually was making that decision to do it, my kids were really young. So that was a factor. I was doing really well in my career. So that was another factor. So of course, the trajectory that I was on, that was a dream in itself for me. I was really fortunate, but I really wanted to solve the problem. It really annoyed me. It was such an annoying thing. But I think if we get it right, and we're there now, it will revolutionize the way that we do software and software licenses. The amount of technical debt that we accumulate, all of those things will reduce by fixing it properly. So, that's got its own personal thing that we're achieving something that's going to change the way things are done going forward. That in itself was something. I've got a chance to do it. Yeah, I can do it. My husband's got the steady job and all, like does all of that side of it. It gave me the opportunity to actually do this. My parents supported me so much. They looked after my children and helped me do this. It was a lot of work when it comes to do it. I remember stupidly, so me and my co-founder, we were just sat like, how hard can it be? Turns out it's pretty bloody hard. It's very, very hard to do this. Not just building the actual product, but like selling it and like all the things that I didn't actually know how to do. I'm a technologist. That's what I did. But having to like makeshift be a salesperson, do like the PowerPointer, be health and safety, do all of these things that I just had no idea about.
Hello. Quick interruption to let you know a bit more about Bay HQ. We're the community for high growth Asian heritage entrepreneurs, operators, and investors in the UK. you can join us totally free at thebayhq.com/join. There you'll get our CEO structure in your inbox every week, which is content, events, and opportunities. You can also get access to our free Startup Fundamentals course by joining. Let's get back to the show. I think one thing is people who are in your position right now, where you were now thinking about there's a problem that really annoys them and thinking about quitting their job. I think what you just said there can really just help them to try and work out when's the right moment and when isn't. And you mentioned as well that your co-founder is somebody that was at the same company as you, right? Who was working on the same problem. When you're making that decision to go and obviously do this separately and you to do it together, how did that decision go? Did you have any conversations about your roles and how it would work? And because I know some people think about founders doing this sort of stuff at the beginning, and then other people do it in a completely different, more informal way. How was that relationship?
So my founder, he was the business side. Like he was the COO for markets and for the digital transformation initiative. And he came at it from solving problems in a business way to actually make sure that we're solving it, not just techie and in my own techie way. It's actually solving a big business problem. So he came at it from that side of it. It was like, so I wanted him to do all the business stuff. Even though I got involved and I actually learned so much doing this, but that was like for him to sort that side out, and I was doing the technology. So that was a clear delineation. We both had this problem. We were, it literally felt like we were like keeping our bosses when we were in a corporate career out of jail by the stuff that was always firefighting to do things to make sure that things are being done correctly because of like senior managers regime, etc. that was being introduced in to regulate banks. We were always on that same like path, working together, like one from the business side, one from the technology side, to say, when we're solving for something, this is what we're doing. And this was one of the key things that added so much friction to deploying global software, which was really a very, very tough thing when you're in that position, when you're trying to make change within an organization.
You mentioned as well a few of the different challenges of like founder life, right?
Yeah.
And at a global organization you're at, you would have a budget, you'd have different things that you'd have. Whereas obviously when you're starting out on your own, you now have like a much more shoestring budget and you're able to do things in a much more cost-effective way. But it must have been an adjustment there as well. And what did you learn from that process of going from having the backing of a huge organization to now starting from ground zero and building up?
So, my background was software engineering. So I wrote nights, weekends, everything. I started the first product that we had that we were like going at to actually understand if there's a market demand for it. I wrote it. So that was my time that I had to put into it. And I went part-time and then I eventually left to just try and work out how do I actually fix some of this stuff and what is the best approach for it. So that was fine because I didn't need to spend money on it apart from like buying laptops and stuff. I wasn't in a position that I had money, savings and stuff that I put together to allow me to do this. But then I needed teams to come on board. So we raised a really small funding round, which was friends and family, just like when we're initially getting bits of traction to actually help. So we raised a really small amount, and then we basically, that was our shoestring budget to start with. It was $500,000 at the time. But we really had to think meticulously about everything, about how we're going to do things. So as we started to get the products up and running, we got our first customer, which was one of the banks. They liked it so much they invested as well when we did our rounds. That they actually helped us a significant amount when we were doing our seed round for funding. So when we raised our seed fund, we got a term sheet. We were pretty much happy with the terms that we got. You always want more, but we had like a really great term sheet. And then a little thing called COVID happened. Just as we got the term sheet, we signed it. We were going through some of the things around it. The organization pulled that term sheet, and as a founder, in the middle of a national crisis, we're just sat there like,
you can say
shit. It was a oh shit moment. We're like, now what we're going to do? Our first customer, they were like, okay, look, we'll help you. We'll still we'll find something else. It'll be, but they couldn't lead, and we didn't want them to lead because you don't want to be tied into your customer as well when you're doing your funding rounds, etc. Because we want to sell this to lots of different companies. So we went out to market to basically raise funding, and everyone at that time, every single VC was like, love the product, love the team, but we've got to focus on our portfolio companies. And it was really like a really, really tough time. So when we did get another term sheet, it was for 2/3 of the value, maybe even less. The valuation was lower, so we were diluting more. It was pretty harsh, but it still meant that we could still realize our dream. Yeah, we could still go ahead, and if we're going to solve this, but we are going to need to do this properly, because we're solving a multi-global company for global organizations, that it has to be stable, it has to be resilient, it has to have all these other things. It's not just building products, it has to have all of these other things to make it compliant to work within so we basically use that money to do that with it and build out the rest of the team, building partnerships, etc. But that was, the whole thing was trying to run everything on a shoestring. But to me, at the time, WhatsApp had just been acquired, and Instagram as well. But we took real inspiration from those. Like WhatsApp was on over 1 billion devices, and it's not like a website that they're looking after. This is actually physically on people's devices. And they had 50 people when they got acquired. And I think Instagram had 17 or something. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was really low. But it was like, well, if they can do it and they can generate that sort of value and be that great of a product, you don't need masses of people, and that's your biggest cost. So we've basically worked around it to say, well, how do we maximize what we can do, automate as much as we can? As more and more things started to happen around AI, etc., we started just incorporate those things into the platform to actually help us. You learn how to do it. You learn pretty fast. If you so my co-founder and myself, we're resilient. We're scrappy as hell, and we will just whatever it takes. So with a small team, whatever it is, we'll work. We'll make it a fun environment, but we'll work no one's business. I think every entrepreneur probably has that same sort of story, that you just work insane amount of hours and you're doing a lot with it. We just made it work.
You mentioned the resilience part there as well, and obviously going through that situation, I think many people relate to whether it's an investor or a big customer where you think it's over the line and then it gets pulled at the last moment. How did you deal with that as a team? Even just amongst yourselves, about obviously keeping morale high and motivation high. How are you able to get through that moment and still keep pushing forwards and keep going for it?
Lots of alcohol. No, it was hard. It was really horrible. I think those are the times that it's really great to have a co-founder you've got somebody else doing it. So it's a lonely journey doing this as a founder. By having both of us going through it, we had a lot of support for each other to go through this, because again, it was a shit moment for the pair of us. He's actually really good when there's a crisis, and he's calm, and I'm everything's the world's falling apart, not deal with it as well. And he's super calm, so he's fine. But if there's nothing going on, when I'm good, he's the one. He has to make noise. Something has to happen. So you've got so. That's how we've kind of got through things, and lots of alcohol, of course. So it was but to make things fun. But when the rest of the team, they were shielded from it. They were a part of it. They understood what was happening and what we had to do off the back of that. Super supportive. There's a bit of camaraderie between us, because we're solving something, and we're solving it for some of the biggest organizations in the world. So we're really proud of what we've done, even though it's been on a shoestring, and it's been tough to do it, but we've done it, and we've done it with full heart in it. We've done it we can stand behind our product. We're really proud of what we've done. So those are the things that we what's actually got us through. So we don't have everything. We're kind of like the underdog as well. We can still do this. It's fine. We're not going to let this keep us down.
You said as well earlier how you built the first version of the product yourself, right? And at your previous roles, you'd always managed teams, you'd had different people working underneath you, and now you've got other people too working in the tech team. How has that been for you from the different position of when you're now a founder and it's your baby that they're working on versus when you're managing a team at a corporate? Has it been quite similar in terms of how you're hiring for those people, or has there been any notable differences?
No, yeah, I think that part is just comes with experience and time and what type of people you want. But every single hire, even when I was in my corporate job, was quite meticulous. Then that's always been a part of it. It was like, don't just hire for the sake of hiring. That doesn't make sense. Think about the exact skill set you need, and if you don't have that, then don't hire at all. So that's kind of been it. We've had like the odd role that's come in. So we've had I had an intern. Someone said, "Do you want an intern?" And we're like, we don't really know what we're going to do with it, but we'll give them an opportunity anyway. So we've done that, but it's not been clear. But generally, every single hire is meticulously done, where we know what we need, know what skill sets we need to complement the team. So that's not really changed. I've had to build that as a part of my corporate career because, again, I was really ambitious in my corporate career as well. So from that standpoint, I never wanted to. It's selfish. I didn't want to look bad, so I hired accordingly. Right? You hire people that are smarter than you. That's always been my strategy. I'm surrounded by super clever people. I love it.
So you've been here for quite a few years now, right? What's been the proudest moments? What's been the biggest wins?
It's actually really personal to us. Landing a client, we were chasing after them for a good couple of years to win this as a deal. But my co-founder's dad was the mailman at that company. So he spent 35, 40 years as the mail guy of this company. And for us, it was, so just before he died, he was always asked every week, "Dad, did you land it yet? Did you land it yet?" And we were like, not yet. It wasn't what my founder was saying it. But the day we did that signing, unfortunately, his dad wasn't alive to see it. That day we did that signing was so special to us. It was like, we had that was our big flagship client as well. It was, if not one of the biggest banks, it's the biggest bank in the world. As a customer that sees value in our product, that was really special.
And what we're doing now, right? So we're over 200 episodes in, and the idea is we'll get you back again in 2 years' time, right?
Yeah.
And what would you love to say in 2 years' time, sitting here again, to say your biggest win has been since you last came on?
I'll say, let's do it on my yacht. That's what I want to say to you then.
Then you can sponsor the podcast. All good.
Yeah. I would love to have actually realized. So as I was saying, one of the things that we're about to do is we've come together and we've actually about to announce. So by the time the podcast goes live, it will be live. But we are creating game-changing software that's going to be, again, be something different in the way that applications are deployed globally going forward. So we've teamed up with Red Hat, using all of their networking infrastructure skills that they have and what they've got around open source software. And we pulled all of that together to create intelligent infrastructure. So intelligent infrastructure means that we can understand from data where something needs to run in a global setting, if it needs to run in India, if it needs to run in China, if it needs to run in Europe or the US. But we can do that seamlessly. And that's going to be something I want to see in 2 years' time, that people are innovating on top of that technology, because it doesn't exist today. Well, it does now, but it didn't exist up until now. And I want to see people really taking that and creating true global systems, solving some of the challenges that you've got with AI and having bias in models because you can't run them globally. I want to see that that underlying technology would now enable so much more. So that to me would be a huge win, that we, from an idea from an engineering standpoint, is now there in reality, and now people can really do what they need to do. In 2 years' time, I want to be able to say some of the new unicorns are now building on top of that sort of technology. That's what I want to hear.
Awesome. So we talked about some of the hard times, obviously the struggles that you've had there. But what do you enjoy the most? What's the bit that keeps you going every day that you really love?
Oh, what do I enjoy? I'm going to go back to alcohol, aren't I? No, I love spending time with my family and my friends. I haven't done it as much as I'd like to, and I really feel that gap of being an entrepreneur. As I said, you give it your all to do something. But that's for sure that I really treasure those times that I can actually just unwind and spend with them and do those things. And as we're growing and doing things differently, I'd like to see myself having more time to be able to do that, because it's been many years that I've not been able to really properly do that. Probably neglected some friends, so apologies to them if they're listening. So, but I think from that standpoint, it's I really love doing that.
So thanks so much for sharing all your story today. Quick fire question time. So first one is, who are 3 Asians in Britain that you think are doing incredible work and you'd have to shout them out?
Yep. So first and foremost, Aarti Samani. I met her a good few years ago, and she is so knowledgeable around some of the threats that are coming out from an AI perspective. They're really knowledgeable. She's building frameworks to help organizations to actually deal with some of those risks that they don't even know that are coming. So definitely she deserves a shout out. She's trying to help organizations, but she's one person at the moment that's hopefully going to be growing and being able to get this word out. But the work that she's doing is super important. Karan Jay, of course, amazing technology in terms of building a sandbox. She's working with some of the most amazing companies, but all, again, helping organizations to test safely and do different things with other technologies. And not in the UK, though. So, but I did have Shayla Jamin. She is an ex-entrepreneur. She's actually based out in the Netherlands, but unbelievable. She was an entrepreneur, spent many years being an entrepreneur, now has gone into a corporate career, but again, just it's been pretty amazing, some of the things that she's been doing and what she has done in her career. So definitely someone worth speaking to if you have the chance.
And if you want to find out more about you and what you're building?
So we're eXate. So it's www.exate.com. So it's eXate. And find me on LinkedIn. I'm Sonal Rattan.
And if the audience listening today could potentially help you, is there anything that you need help with?
Yeah. So again, people that, for us, so we're, again, taking that WhatsApp mentality. We don't want to grow, but we're always looking for partners in this space to actually use the technology, embed it into their products, and then be able to forward distribute it. So any partners that want to leverage off our technology, work with us, and again, continually improve it, absolutely happy to be in touch.
So thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Any final words?
No, thanks for having me, and looking forward to hearing some of your podcasts coming up.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.